Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Cosmos. I'm so glad you're here. This video is your gentle companion for the night, a slow, thoughtful drift into one of the most mysterious questions we can ask. Does the universe have consciousness? Or, put another way, does the cosmos dream? Whether you're curled up under a heavy blanket with rain on the window, or lying quietly beneath a star-filled sky, I hope this space becomes your sanctuary, a peaceful pause in a busy world. If you're new here, feel free to give this video a like or subscribe. It helps others find this quiet corner of the internet, and if you're already part of this sleepy community, thank you, truly. Your presence means everything. Now, tonight's question isn't about answers really. It's about wonder, awe, that quiet curiosity that stirs just before sleep. Because somewhere out there, between the stars, between time itself, the universe might be more than just matter and motion. It might be something else. We'll explore ancient philosophy, modern science, and cosmic mysteries, all in a way that's soothing, slow, and sleep-friendly. You're not expected to stay awake. You're not expected to remember a thing. So take a deep breath, let your body relax, and let's begin while drifting through a dreaming universe. Have you ever wondered if the universe might be aware of itself? Not just observed through our telescopes, measured in units and equations, but felt, thought, known. There is an ancient question whispered across time. Could the cosmos be conscious? Could the universe, in some profound way, be dreaming? Let's begin gently with that thought. The sky above us has always inspired these kinds of questions. Long before science offered explanations, people looked up and saw meaning, stories, spirits, patterns of gods and animals in the stars. The night sky was a canvas for wonder, mystery, and connection. And even now, after centuries of exploration, that sense of mystery hasn't gone away. If anything, it has deepened. Because with all we've learned, the galaxies, the quantum particles, the expansion of space, there remains something we can't quite explain: consciousness. You are conscious. You're aware of your thoughts. You're aware that you're listening to this right now. But where does that awareness come from? Is it simply neurons firing? Or is there something more? Some have wondered if consciousness is not just something we possess, but something that exists throughout the universe. In every atom, in every wave of energy, a quiet awareness embedded in reality itself. This idea has a name: Panpsychism. It suggests that even the tiniest particles may contain the seeds of experience. Not thoughts, necessarily, not minds like ours, but something, a glimmer of awareness. And if that's true, then perhaps the universe doesn't just contain consciousness, it is consciousness. In this view, your mind isn't separate from the cosmos, it is a continuation of it, a thread in a much vaster, dreaming web. Imagine the cosmos not as a cold expanse of lifeless matter, but as something living, breathing, dreaming. Galaxies swirling like thoughts in the night, nebulae blooming like memories, stars igniting like sparks of recognition. This isn't science fiction, it's a metaphor, a way to describe the indescribable. And while scientists may not speak in such poetic terms, many do acknowledge that the universe behaves in deeply mysterious ways. Take, for example, the way particles seem to decide how to behave based on whether they're being observed, or how entangled particles seem to communicate instantly across vast distances. These phenomena don't prove consciousness, but they do hint at something beyond what we currently understand, and so we arrive at our central question once more. If the cosmos is capable of birthing life, of creating minds like yours and mine, then is it so strange to wonder if it has a mind of its own? Maybe consciousness didn't emerge from the universe. Maybe it was always there, woven into the fabric of space and time. Maybe when you close your eyes at night, you're not just drifting into your own dreams. Maybe you're tapping into the dreams of the cosmos itself. Consciousness is often thought of as a spark, something that switches on inside our brains. But what if it's more like a field, a gentle current running through the fabric of reality, waiting for the right vessel to take shape? Think of the breeze that rustles leaves in a forest. The wind doesn't belong to the tree, and yet the tree moves because of it. Could consciousness be similar? Not something generated inside us, but something we interact with. Something that flows through us as we become still and open. Ancient traditions often saw it that way. Indigenous cultures, Eastern philosophies, even early Western thinkers, they all hinted at a world that was more than mechanical, a world that was awake. Not awake in the way we are, but awake in its own vast, ungraspable sense. The stars don't speak. The galaxies don't dream in words, but perhaps, just perhaps, they resonate with something deeper, a harmony, a presence, a hum beneath the silence. Let's drift a little deeper now into one of the most poetic ideas ever spoken by a scientist. Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." What a gentle, beautiful thought. That consciousness is not an accident, but a flowering, that from particles and pressure, from gravity and time, the universe eventually gave rise to a being that could look back at it in awe. You are that being, and so am I, and so is every mind that has ever stared up at the stars and wondered why. Maybe the universe has always been dreaming, and maybe, in us, it began to remember. This is where science and wonder softly hold hands. Neuroscientists study the brain, its folds and firings, the chemistry of memory and attention. Astrophysicists study stars, galaxies, dark matter. But between those disciplines lies a bridge, the mystery of awareness. Some researchers propose that consciousness arises from complexity. When a system becomes complex enough, like a brain or a network, it begins to generate awareness. But even if that's true, we're still left with a question. Why does that awareness feel like something? What is it that gives thought its texture? What gives emotion its colour? Why does the taste of memory or the sound of a loved one's voice carry such deep inner resonance? These are the questions science hasn't yet answered, and maybe they're not meant to be solved, only felt. So let us return, one last time, to the image of a dreaming cosmos, the universe stretching out in all directions, galaxies spinning slowly like thought forms, dark matter drifting like unspoken feelings, light weaving the edges of reality like strands of intention. Could it be that your consciousness is the echo of something much older? That every moment of awareness is a tiny window into the universe becoming aware of itself? Maybe sleep is not just rest. Maybe it's a return to that gentle sea of dreaming, where stars are born and stories begin, where you, for a moment, are not separate from anything. You're the cosmos, listening back to itself. Let's pause here for a moment, not to solve the mystery, but to savour it. There's something peaceful about not knowing, something sacred in the silence between answers. The night sky doesn't rush to explain itself, it simply is. Vast, unfathomable, patient, and maybe that's what makes us feel so small when we look up. Not fear, but reverence. The quiet knowledge that we are part of something ancient, something that doesn't need us to understand it, only to witness it. when you see your reflection in a window at night with the stars faintly shining behind the glass? Are you looking out, or is the universe looking in? These are questions meant for bedtime, not to keep you awake, but to gently carry you into sleep, into a place where the lines blur, where the known and unknown swirl together like galaxies, where your thoughts drift beyond the boundaries of your body and melt into the fabric of everything. So tonight, as you rest, imagine this, that your thoughts are stardust, that your dreams are ripples in a much larger sea, that the quiet inside you is not emptiness, but space itself, holding you gently. And if you wake in the middle of the night, wondering who you are and why you're here, just remember this. You're not apart from the universe. You're its whisper, its shimmer, its slow unfolding, and perhaps its dream. Sleep well, dear traveller. The stars are watching, and somewhere, far beyond the edges of space, the cosmos dreams with you. What is consciousness? It's a question that has echoed through time, across ancient temples, scientific laboratories, and late-night whispers in the dark. And tonight, in the quiet stillness before sleep, we ask it again. Not to find a final answer, but to explore the wonder that surrounds it. You are conscious. You're aware. But what does that truly mean? It means that behind your eyes, there is an inner world, a space where thoughts rise and fall, where sensations are felt, where memories live and dreams unfold. This awareness is so familiar that we rarely stop to think about it. But when we do, it opens up one of the greatest mysteries in the universe. Consciousness is not just being awake. It's not simply reacting to your environment. It's the experience of being, the feeling of what it's like to exist. Imagine a robot that could mimic everything you do. It could speak, move, and respond with perfect timing, but does it feel anything? That's the mystery. Because no matter how much we study the brain, no one has ever found a single place where consciousness lives. Neurons fire, chemicals flow, patterns emerge. But how does that activity translate into the richness of experience, into joy, sorrow, memory, or the quiet peace you feel right now? Some call this the hard problem of consciousness, not how the brain works, but how it feels to have a mind. Scientists and philosophers have offered many theories. Some say consciousness is a byproduct of complexity. When a system, like the human brain, reaches a certain level of interconnectedness, awareness emerges naturally. Others believe consciousness is more than just an effect, that it might be a fundamental part of the universe like space, time, or gravity. This idea isn't new. It echoes ancient spiritual traditions from around the world. In Hinduism, there's the concept of Atman, a universal self that lives in all things. In many indigenous belief systems, all of nature is considered alive, aware, and worthy of respect. Today, some physicists and neuroscientists are taking another look at these ideas through a new lens. One of those lenses is called Integrated Information Theory, or IIT. It suggests that consciousness arises from how information is shared and integrated within a system. The more interconnected and unified the flow of information, the greater the consciousness. According to IIT, even simple systems like a grid of lights or a digital network might have some faint glimmer of awareness, depending on how they're structured. This doesn't mean your phone is thinking, but it does challenge the idea that consciousness is limited only to humans or even to animals with brains. Instead, consciousness may be something more universal, scaling up and down with complexity, quietly glowing wherever information flows. Another theory from physicist Roger Penrose explores the idea that consciousness may be linked to quantum mechanics. Penrose suggests that there's something happening inside the neurons of the brain, something that taps into the strange probabilistic behavior of quantum particles. In this view, consciousness is not just electrical signals bouncing around. It's tied to the very fabric of reality. While this theory is controversial and still being explored, it opens up a profound possibility that consciousness is woven into the same rules that govern atoms and galaxies, that the same strange forces that shape the stars may also shape our minds. Let's take a moment to step back. Close your eyes, if they aren't already, and picture a thought. Any thought. Maybe it's a face you love. Maybe it's a memory of warmth. Maybe it's just a colour or a shape. Now ask yourself, where is that thought? You can't point to it. You can't measure it. And yet you know it's there. It has weight, texture, meaning. This is what makes consciousness so mysterious. It exists fully and vividly, even though we cannot see it. It's not an object, it's an experience. And experiences are the most personal, intimate things we know. Some researchers have tried to map the mind, scanning the brain while people think, feel, and dream. And what they found is beautiful in its own right. Regions of the brain light up, patterns form, neural networks become active. But the patterns alone don't explain the feeling. They don't explain why sadness aches or why music stirs the heart. Consciousness is not just data. It's the way we live that data, the way it moves through the inner world we all carry. This inner world may be the most real thing we ever know. After all, everything you've ever seen, touched, tasted, or loved has passed through the lens of your awareness. Without consciousness, there is no you. And so we ask again, what is it? Is it a product of biology, a miracle of evolution? Or is it something deeper, a fundamental quality of the universe like light or time? Some scientists believe consciousness might be an emergent property, like wetness from water or traffic patterns from cars. Others propose it is non-local, that it exists not just in the brain, but somehow beyond it. This is where ideas become delicate, because the more we study consciousness, the more it challenges the boundary between science and philosophy, between the measurable and the meaningful. In ancient times, people believed the mind lived in the heart. Later, they believed it was in the breath, then in the brain. Today, we know the brain plays a central role, but we still don't know why awareness arises. There are hundreds of billions of neurons in your brain, more connections than stars in the galaxy, and somehow, out of all these tiny pulses of electricity comes you, your story, your sense of self. If we are honest, we must admit, we don't fully understand how. And maybe that's okay. Maybe mystery is part of the magic. For a moment, let's turn the question inward. Feel your breath. Notice the way your body rises and falls, the way your thoughts drift and settle. That awareness, that gentle noticing, is consciousness in motion. And it doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be profound. It can be as simple as the feeling of your weight on the bed, the hush of the room around you. In these quiet places, consciousness doesn't ask to be understood. It simply invites you to rest in it, to float in its presence, to just be. Let's explore one more idea, one that returns us to the cosmos. What if consciousness is not confined to the brain at all? What if it is something that pervades the universe in ways we've only begun to imagine? This concept appears in many traditions, both spiritual and scientific. In Panpsychism, for example, every particle of matter may hold a tiny seed of awareness, not like a thought or a mind, but a presence, a faint inner glow. If that were true, then consciousness didn't emerge from the universe. It was the universe all along. In every star, every tree, every atom, some trace of experience might reside. This doesn't mean the universe is thinking. It doesn't mean planets have opinions or galaxies have plans, but it suggests that awareness may not be as rare as we once believed, that it may not be something separate from the cosmos, but one of its hidden dimensions. Just as gravity bends space or light travels through vacuum, perhaps consciousness weaves silently through the fabric of it all, and in you, in your awareness right now, it blooms, it gathers itself, it looks back. You're not just in the universe, you're the place where the universe becomes aware, a moment of reflection inside an ancient dream. As you sink deeper into rest, let these thoughts soften. There is no rush to understand, no pressure to conclude. The mystery of consciousness is not something we must solve before sleep. It is something we can rest inside, like lying beneath the stars, not to count them, but to feel their presence. Let your thoughts drift, let your body relax, and know that in this quiet moment, you are part of something vast, something beautiful, something still unfolding. Consciousness, whatever it is, has brought you here, and here is enough. Imagine a universe where everything, even the smallest particle, holds a whisper of experience, not intelligence, not thought, just a flicker of awareness. This is the heart of an idea called Panpsychism. It's one of the oldest and most quietly radical theories in philosophy, and in recent years it's been finding new life in modern science. Panpsychism suggests that consciousness isn't rare. It isn't something that just magically appears in brains or emerges from complexity. Instead, it might be a basic quality of reality, like mass or charge or spin. In this view, every part of the universe might carry some tiny primitive form of awareness, a grain of sand, a drop of water, even a particle of light. Not enough to think or feel as we do, but enough to be in some small, mysterious way. This idea may sound strange at first. After all, we're used to thinking of consciousness as something special, something uniquely human, or at least uniquely biological. But Panpsychism flips the question. Instead of asking, how does matter become conscious? It asks, what if matter has always been conscious, in some faint and quiet way? The appeal of this idea is that it removes the need for a magical threshold. There's no moment when matter suddenly lights up. Instead, consciousness is already there, diffuse, low level, and woven into the cosmos from the beginning. Over time, as systems grow more complex, like in brains, consciousness becomes more vivid, more focused, more like the kind of experience we know. But even in the simplest systems, a gentle hum might remain. Some scientists are taking this seriously, not because they want to believe in magic, but because the hard problem of consciousness remains unsolved. One prominent advocate is the philosopher Philip Goff. He argues that Panpsychism offers a way to bridge the gap between physical science and inner experience. If experience is a fundamental feature of matter, then we no longer have to explain how it arises from purely physical stuff. It is physical stuff, just seen from the inside. Goff's view is part of a growing movement to revisit ancient ideas using modern tools, to take what was once myth or metaphor and explore it through reason and experiment. Let's step back for a moment and consider something simple. The warmth of sunlight on your face, the sound of a breeze whispering through leaves, the pull of gravity as you lie still. These are ordinary experiences, and yet they seem to arise from a world that doesn't seem conscious at all. But what if the world is not as unconscious as it appears? What if that breeze, that gravity, that sunlight all emerge from a deeper fabric, one that is subtly aware? Panpsychism doesn't mean the wind has a personality. It doesn't mean the sun is plotting your day. It simply asks us to imagine that the universe isn't a cold machine, but a kind of living system. Not alive like us, but alive in ways we barely know how to describe. This idea resonates with something many people feel, but don't always say, that when we walk through a forest, or stand by the ocean, or look up at the stars, something is looking back. It's not just beauty, it's connection. As if the world recognizes us in some small way. In many indigenous traditions, this feeling is not considered strange. It's part of the way reality is understood. Trees have spirit, rivers have memory, mountains hold wisdom. These are not metaphors, they're truths spoken in another language. And now science is beginning to wonder, were we too quick to dismiss them? Let's return to modern theories. One that often comes up is integrated information theory, IIT. We touched on it earlier, but here's the heart of it again. IIT proposes that consciousness is tied to the way information is organized and shared within a system. The more tightly integrated that information is, the more unified, the stronger the experience of consciousness. In a human brain, the connections are deep and complex, so the experience is rich. In a simpler system like a thermostat or a computer chip, the experience might be tiny, maybe too small to detect, but still, it might be there. IIT doesn't require magic. It doesn't ask us to believe in spirits or souls. It just redefines how we think about matter, not as dull or dead, but as something capable of feeling under the right conditions. And if that's true, then the question is no longer, where does consciousness come from? It's, how conscious is the world around us? From cells to storms, from machines to galaxies, we may be living inside a sea of subtle awareness, a world not asleep, but dreaming. And we, humans, are just one ripple in its great unfolding mind. Another bold idea comes from physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. Their theory is called orchestrated objective reduction, or ORC-OR for short. They believe that consciousness might arise from quantum processes, tiny, delicate interactions that take place deep inside the brain's neurons. Not just electrical signals, but quantum vibrations, flickers of probability that could connect the mind to the deepest laws of physics. If this is true, then consciousness isn't just something brains do, it's something reality does. The same rules that guide atoms and black holes might also whisper the secret of thought. Critics of OR say it's speculative, and it is. But even critics admit the mystery is still open, and perhaps it requires a new kind of thinking, one that blends the mathematical with the mystical, the measurable with the meaningful. That's why theories like Panpsychism are gaining ground. Not because they explain everything, but because they dare to ask deeper questions. Questions like, why should the universe produce consciousness at all? Why should atoms come together in such a way that they begin to feel? And could it be that they always have? There's another reason Panpsychism is appealing. It suggests continuity. Rather than a sharp line between conscious and not conscious, it offers a spectrum. A scale of awareness, rising gradually from the simplest forms of matter to the complexity of human thought. This idea doesn't deny biology. It doesn't replace evolution or brain science. It simply asks us to look deeper, to consider that consciousness may be a thread running through it all, woven through stars and synapses alike, that we are not exceptions, but expressions. Sometimes scientific curiosity and ancient intuition point in the same direction. For thousands of years, cultures around the world have imagined the universe as alive, not just full of life, but life itself. In Hinduism, the cosmos is said to breathe, to dream, to dance. In some indigenous worldviews, every part of nature is conscious in its own way. The sky has memory. The earth has spirit. These aren't just poetic ideas. They may be early expressions of what Panpsychism attempts to describe. A cosmos where consciousness is not a product, but a presence. As we float here together in this moment, is worth asking, what kind of universe do we believe we're part of? One that is cold, mechanical, and unaware, or one that holds a quiet knowing? A universe that listens, even when it says nothing back. Science doesn't have all the answers, but it can help us frame better questions, like, what is the simplest explanation for consciousness? And what happens if the simplest explanation is that it's always been here? So here we are, a species of thinkers, dreaming animals wandering aloud in the dark. We build tools, we make models, we look into telescopes and brains, and in the process we keep stumbling upon something strange and beautiful. The possibility that consciousness is not an afterthought of the cosmos, but its very foundation. A quiet background hum behind all motion and form. Maybe this idea is true, maybe it's not. But it invites us to slow down, to look again, and to wonder, not just with our minds, but with our hearts. Because sometimes the universe doesn't just ask to be understood, it asks to be felt. Let's begin with a simple, quiet thought. What does it mean for something to observe, to see, to notice, to be aware, even just for a moment? In our daily lives, observation is effortless. We open our eyes, and the world arrives. We notice the stars. We hear the wind. We feel our own breath. But what if observation itself is more than a human act? What if it's something the universe does too? There's a phrase that appears often in scientific and philosophical circles. We are the universe observing itself. It sounds poetic, but it may also be true, literally. Think of it this way. You're made of stardust. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a dying star. Your hands, your voice, your thoughts, all shaped from the remnants of ancient matter. And now that matter looks up. That matter asks questions. That matter becomes curious. You, as a human being, are not separate from the universe. You're one of its ways of knowing. This idea is not just philosophical, it's grounded in science. Through the laws of physics, the universe gave rise to complexity. Through complexity, it formed life. Through life, it grew awareness. At some point, this awareness began to reflect, to study the stars, to map the brain, to wonder about its own beginnings. And so, here you are, floating in a sea of space, made of the same elements as galaxies, and pondering the nature of it all. Observation in this sense becomes more than passive. It becomes a kind of cosmic feedback. The universe becomes aware of itself through you. One of the most mysterious places this idea appears is in quantum physics. In certain experiments, like the famous double-slit experiment, particles seem to behave differently when they are observed. When unmeasured, a particle acts like a wave, spread out in possibility. But the moment it's observed, it chooses a position. It becomes definite. What does this mean? Some scientists interpret it as a sign that observation plays a role in shaping physical reality. Others caution against reading too much into it. But either way, the fact remains, the act of measurement matters. Observation has weight, and it invites a strange possibility that awareness, even in its smallest forms, is woven into the rules of existence. Now, let's take a step back, far back. Imagine the timeline of the cosmos. 13.8 billion years ago, there was a beginning, a sudden flowering of space and time, the Big Bang. From that moment, everything we know began to unfold. Hydrogen formed, stars ignited, galaxies spun. Over eons, planets cooled, chemistry danced, and somehow, somewhere, consciousness appeared, not immediately, not everywhere, but gradually, like mist rising from a warming sea. And now, that awareness looks outward and inward. You are part of that story, a tiny flare of reflection in a vast and ancient dream. Some thinkers believe this isn't an accident, that the universe was somehow tuned to give rise to observers. This is known as the anthropic principle. It doesn't say the universe exists because of us, but it suggests that the conditions we find ourselves in, laws, constants, dimensions, are precisely the ones that allow observers like us to exist. If the force of gravity was slightly stronger, or the charge of an electron slightly different, stars might never have formed. No stars, no planets, no life, and no minds to witness the beauty of it all. Let's consider something else. When you remember a moment from your childhood, a sound, a face, a feeling, that memory isn't stored in a single place. It's scattered across networks of neurons, reassembled in an instant when you recall it. In the same way, perhaps the universe stores fragments of itself in every conscious being, in every moment of awareness. Your thoughts, your feelings, your wonder. These are not just personal, they're part of a larger mosaic, a kind of cosmic memory unfolding in real time. Perhaps every act of perception is also a contribution, a note in the universe's growing song. There's something beautiful in this idea that when you look at a flower, or listen to a loved one's voice, or stand in awe before the night sky, you are participating in a loop where the universe, through you, becomes not just a thing, but a witness, not just a pattern, but an experiencer. And though your life is brief in cosmic terms, the awareness that fills you is part of something timeless, a lineage of observation stretching from the first light to this very moment. Some scientists and philosophers take this idea further. They propose that the act of observation might not only reveal the universe, but help create it. This is known as the participatory anthropic principle. It suggests that consciousness and cosmos are not separate forces, but two sides of the same coin. That reality, as we know it, unfolds not in spite of awareness, but because of it. Each observer brings the universe into focus, like a lens, gently curving space-time into meaning. It's a radical thought, but perhaps not more radical than the idea that atoms once formed stars and now form thoughts. Think of the journey so far, from particles to people, from stars to scientists, from silence to song. It's easy to think of consciousness as a late arrival, something that popped up on Earth a few billion years in, but in this new framing, awareness may be the flowering of something much older, a potential that has always been there, waiting for the right conditions to bloom. If so, then when you wonder about the star, you're not separate from them. You're part of their unfolding. Their curiosity lives in you. Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." that line is more than poetic. It's a profound insight. For billions of years, the universe expanded, cooled, and formed structure. And then, in a quiet corner of one galaxy, it gained the ability to reflect. Through you, through others, it began to ask questions. What am I? Why am I here? What does it all mean? This isn't ego, it's humility. To know that our awareness is not apart from nature, but a continuation of it, an echo of the original fire. So when you close your eyes tonight and drift towards sleep, know that your dreams are not small. They are waves in a much larger sea, a sea where matter becomes mind, where silence becomes thought, where the universe for a moment becomes awake, not because it needs to, but because it can. You are the universe, observing itself with wonder, with questions, and with the quiet beauty of being. And in that stillness, in that mystery, you are home. Think also of the tools we've built, telescopes that reach across time, sensors that detect the faintest signals from the birth of the universe. These instruments are not just extensions of the eye, they are reflections of curiosity itself, curiosity that emerged from chemistry, from carbon, water, and light. And now, that curiosity peers back across billions of years. It listens for echoes in the dark. It translates radio waves into meaning. And in doing so, it knits the cosmos into something intimate, something shared. The silence of deep space becomes a kind of whisper. A whisper heard by the very particles that once belonged to stars. Even mathematics, the most abstract of human inventions, can be seen as part of this act of observation. Why is the universe so elegantly described by equations? Why does gravity obey simple rules? Why do particles dance to predictable rhythms? Could it be that the structure of thought itself mirrors the structure of the cosmos? When we solve for motion, or predict an eclipse, or calculate a curve, we are not inventing reality, we are revealing it, pulling back the curtain just slightly and letting the universe describe itself through us. Finally, consider time. Our lives are fleeting, a flash in the scale of stars, and yet, in this brief window, we learn, we love, we wonder, we reach toward the infinite, not with our hands but with our questions. That too is observation, to see meaning in the pattern, to feel awe in the unknown. It may be that the universe has always longed to witness itself, and in your eyes, in your thoughts, in your dreams, it finally can. So perhaps, in the quiet hours of the night, when you gaze at the stars or drift into sleep, you are continuing that ancient process, the unfolding of awareness, a soft exchange between mind and matter, between what is seen and what sees. In that stillness, you are not alone. You are a part of something vast, something old, something that through you remembers itself. If the cosmos could dream, what would it dream about? Would it imagine itself as stars and galaxies stretching across the dark? Would it see visions of life blossoming on scattered worlds? Or would it dream in silence, in long, slow waves of thought, measured in the deep pulse of gravity and time? Tonight, let us wonder. Let us imagine the universe not just as a machine, but as a dreamer. In many ways, dreaming is a mystery. Our minds, in sleep, unspool strange narratives. Shapes shift, time bends, meaning appears from nothing. And yet, dreaming is not chaos. It has a rhythm, a pulse, a purpose. Dreams help us process. They connect memory to emotion, past to future, reality to imagination. So if the cosmos could dream, might it do the same? Might it replay its histories, its births and collisions, its expansions and collapses? Might it imagine futures too, galaxies not yet formed, lives not yet lived? Perhaps. Some ancient cultures believed the universe was born from a dream. In Aboriginal Australian mythology, the dream time is not just a past, it's a continuing living layer of reality, a time before time where the world was shaped by ancestral forces. In Hindu tradition, the god Vishnu sleeps on the coils of a great cosmic serpent. As he dreams, the universe unfolds from his thoughts. In both stories, dreaming is not idle, it is creative. And in the vastness of space, that metaphor begins to feel less like poetry and more like a gentle question. Let's imagine that dreaming, at its essence, is a kind of simulation. Not just random imagery, but an internal world the mind creates for itself. It's private, yet strangely connected to what we've seen and felt. In that way, the cosmos might be dreaming through us. We are part of its imagination. Our stories, our myths, our questions. They are expressions of a larger intelligence unfolding, an intelligence that does not speak in words, but in waves, in orbits, in emergence. It dreams of itself by becoming many things: atoms, oceans, minds, music, and all of them, somehow, are aware. Science too entertains this idea, though with different language. Some physicists wonder whether reality is fundamentally information, not just matter and energy, but patterns, logic, code. If the universe is a kind of computation, then dreaming could be seen as recursive processing, the cosmos looping through its own possibilities, thinking through existence using minds like yours, not just passively, but creatively. You're not a bystander, you're a participant in its dream. Consider the brain, our personal dreaming engine. It weighs just over a kilogram, and yet it can hold entire worlds. It can imagine things it's never seen, solve puzzles, compose symphonies. All of this emerging from the same atoms that formed stars. The fact that the universe can produce something as complex as consciousness and dreaming suggests something remarkable. That matter, under the right conditions, becomes imagination. And imagination in turn reshapes matter. Your thoughts can move hands, build machines, write poems. In that feedback loop, is that not a kind of dreaming? Think of time as a thread woven through dreams. In your sleep, time bends and stretches. You may live entire lifetimes in a moment, or revisit the past as if it were now. What if the cosmos experiences time the same way, slowly but deeply? Not in seconds, but in epochs. Its memory stored in the structure of galaxies, in the patterns of radiation, in the whispers of background light. Perhaps black holes are punctuation marks in its dreaming. Places where meaning folds in on itself, waiting to be read again. Or maybe they're pauses, moments of silence in the great symphony of being. If dreams are symbolic, what symbols might the universe use? A spiral galaxy, spinning endlessly. A comet, brushing past the edge of a star system. A planet wrapped in oceans and thought. These might be the archetypes of cosmic dreaming, recurring patterns that hint at deeper truths. Some physicists and cosmologists speak of symmetry and beauty in equations. They say the universe prefers elegance. And elegance too is a kind of dream, a longing for coherence, for the simplest path to the greatest complexity, like a snowflake or a poem. You might wonder, what is the purpose of such a dream? Why would the cosmos imagine itself in this way? One answer is simple, because it can. Another is more subtle, because dreaming is how the universe explores itself, not just outward, but inward. Through each awareness, it gains a perspective. Through your senses, it learns colour, taste, sorrow, laughter. Through your imagination, it explores futures not yet real. In this sense, dreaming isn't escape, it's expansion. It's how the cosmos continues to become more than it was, moment by moment, thought by thought. In biology, there is a concept called emergence. It describes how complex systems arise from simpler interactions. A flock of birds forms a graceful pattern, though no single bird leads. Neurons fire in simple ways, but together they create thought. Could the universe's dream be emergent too, not centered in one place, but rising from the interplay of all things? Stars, atoms, minds, gravity, light. Perhaps consciousness itself is not a static thing, but a wave that ripples through complexity, a field of awareness lighting up wherever matter becomes curious. Some scientists speak of the universe evolving toward greater awareness, from simplicity to complexity, from clouds of gas to civilizations. This is not a guaranteed path. It is delicate, full of chance and fragility. But it happens. And maybe that too is a dream, a long and patient dream of becoming, where hydrogen becomes humanity, where the spark of a star finds its echo in the human heart, where the fabric of space produces poetry, slowly, quietly, inevitably. Dreams often reflect hidden desires. So what might the cosmos long for? Connection, continuity. Perhaps it dreams of unity, of remembering that everything it is it still contains, that every black hole is also a beginning, that every end folds gently into something else. Or maybe its dream is simply presence, to be fully in every moment, without past or future, just the hum of gravity, the hush of photons, the breath of thought. That too is a kind of dream. Imagine now that you're part of this dream, not just observing it, but shaping it. Your memories, your questions, your wonder, they feed back into the whole. When you write, or love, or learn something new, the dream expands. That doesn't make you the center of it. It makes you a collaborator, a note in the cosmic melody, one small thread in a much larger tapestry. But without you, that thread would be missing, and the dream would be less complete. If the cosmos dreams, it dreams slowly, not in bursts but in eras, not in images but in galaxies. Its symbols are not just imagined, they are lived. The collision of stars, the birth of planets, the rise of life, each a stanza in the unfolding poem, and the poem is not finished, it's being written now, in every heartbeat, every question, every gaze at the night sky. As you prepare for rest, you may feel yourself drifting. Your thoughts stretch, soften, and dissolve. This too is part of the dream, the little death of sleep, the slow release into mystery, where logic fades and something older takes over, the dreamer within the dream, and perhaps, in this quiet moment, you are closer to the cosmos than ever. For here, at the edge of sleep, the line between mind and universe grows thin. You are stardust, drifting into starlight. Maybe this is the secret the universe has always carried, that it dreams through layers, through physics and particles, through planets and people, and through you it knows itself in a new way. It feels joy, and grief, and questions. It wonders what it is, and that wondering becomes its next chapter, not written in stone, but whispered through thought, through sleep, through longing, through story. You, after all, are made of the same ingredients as the stars, and when you close your eyes you do not vanish. You enter a different kind of space, one without boundaries, one where time and matter lose their grip, one where dreams are real, if only for a little while. There you touch something vast, something that stretches beyond definition. You're not just dreaming, you are being dreamt. So as this journey draws to a close, breathe deeply, let your mind grow quiet, let your thoughts drift, like dust across starlight. The universe is not far. It is here, within you, dreaming, becoming, waiting to awaken again, through your eyes, your voice, your wonder. And until then, sleep well, dreamer of stars. Why does it matter whether the cosmos dreams? Why linger on questions of consciousness, awareness, and the strange idea that the universe might know itself? The answer may lie not in certainty, but in the kind of people we become when we wonder. Wonder slows us down. It softens our thoughts. It opens a door to humility and connection. And in a world moving so fast, this kind of pause may be more important than ever. To wonder about the universe is to reorient ourselves, to remember how small we are, and yet how astonishing. To be aware of awareness itself is one of the rarest phenomena we know. It is something fragile, improbable, and precious. Whether the cosmos is conscious may never be proven. But the act of contemplating it brings us closer to something profound, a deeper intimacy with existence, a renewed curiosity about our place in it, and perhaps a gentler way of seeing the world. These questions teach us to listen, to look beyond utility, to value silence, beauty, and the mystery that still surrounds us. In a way, that's what science and storytelling have always done. They're languages for wondering out loud, for dreaming together. Throughout history, our questions have shaped our destiny. From firelight stories to telescopes and particle accelerators, humanity has always reached toward the unknown, not only to survive, but to understand. And this understanding brings with it a kind of reverence. When we ask if the cosmos dreams, we're also asking, what does it mean to be alive? What is our place in the unfolding? How do we treat a universe that may, in some mysterious way, be awake or aware? These questions are not just intellectual curiosities. They influence how we live, how we relate to one another, and how we care for our fragile world. The moment you start seeing consciousness as something more than just a human trait, you begin to look at everything differently. A forest is no longer just resources, it's a symphony of interactions. A river isn't merely a flow of water, it becomes part of a story older than language. Even silence begins to hum with potential. You may never know for sure what's conscious and what isn't, but the act of treating things as if they matter, that changes you. It cultivates respect, it grows empathy, and perhaps it opens the door to deeper forms of meaning. Science at its heart is not just about facts, it's about frameworks for curiosity. It helps us ask better questions, and the question of cosmic consciousness may be one of the most powerful of all, not because we have an answer, but because it reshapes how we see everything else. It reframes what intelligence might look like. It invites us to explore other forms of knowing, beyond language, beyond linear logic. This openness is what fuels discovery. The greatest breakthroughs often begin as strange ideas that seem too poetic, too philosophical, until they aren't, until they become part of how we model the world. Consider the concept of emergence. It teaches us that big things arise from many small things working together. Individual neurons don't think, but together they create thought. Could galaxies do the same? Could clusters of stars and fields of dark matter generate a kind of cosmic awareness? We don't know, but it's worth asking. Because when we ask, we pay attention. And when we pay attention, we learn. About the stars, yes, but also about ourselves, our capacity to reflect, to imagine, to empathize. These are not small things. They may be the universe's most surprising creation. When we engage with the idea that the cosmos might be conscious, or at least capable of producing consciousness, we stretch the limits of what it means to be alive. This expansion isn't just intellectual, it's emotional, spiritual even. It invites us to consider that we are not observers of the universe, but participants in it. That our choices, feelings, and relationships are not isolated blips in an indifferent void. They are echoes, threads woven into the cosmic fabric. What we do matters because we are part of the story. Philosophers and physicists alike have long been fascinated by the observer effect, that the act of observation might alter the outcome. In the quantum world, particles behave differently when watched. What does that say about our role in the cosmos? Perhaps awareness and interaction are not passive. Perhaps they are active forces, tools through which reality refines itself. If that's true, then consciousness is not an accident, it is a mechanism. A way for the universe to focus itself, to evolve, to awaken. This shift in perspective doesn't require certainty, it only requires openness. You don't have to believe the cosmos is dreaming, but by entertaining the question, you begin to think differently. You become more aware of patterns, more reverent toward life, more sensitive to the unseen connections that hold reality together. These are not small changes, they ripple outward, in the way you speak, in how you treat others, in how you care for the world. In this way, a single question can become a kind of compass, guiding us toward a more thoughtful, more compassionate existence. Imagine a society that genuinely wonders whether the universe is awake. Such a society might approach technology with care. It might value silence as much as speech. It might listen more to nature, to each other, to itself. It might recognize that just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. In this context, ethics becomes less about rules and more about relationship. A relationship with a universe that may be listening, and even if it's not, we are, and that listening changes everything. There's another reason these questions matter. They remind us that we're not alone, not just in terms of life, but in mystery. Every culture, every age has asked versions of this question. From the dreamtime of Aboriginal stories, to the mythic sleep of gods in ancient texts, to the modern physicists' musings on multiverses and wave functions, this wonder is part of who we are. To be human is to ask what cannot be answered, and to find in the asking something sacred, a kind of clarity born not from knowledge, but from awe. If the cosmos is dreaming, then each of us is a fleeting moment in that dream, a glimmer of thought, a breath of feeling. That might seem small, but in a universe of such scale, what isn't? Perhaps smallness is not insignificance. Perhaps it is intimacy. To be here at all, to wonder, to feel, that is enough. That is extraordinary. And maybe that's the point. Not to explain the cosmos completely, but to be moved by it, to let it shape us as we shape our stories about it. There's also a quiet responsibility that arises from these questions. If the cosmos is not just a machine, but a living system, or even a dreaming one, then our actions ripple through it, not just physically but symbolically. Every invention, every poem, every act of kindness is a contribution, a subtle gesture in the great unfolding. Even our fears and flaws, our imperfections, they are part of the pattern. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being present, and remembering that presence itself is rare. You could have been anything: rock, gas, silence. But you are awareness, a small flickering light in the vast unknown. So why does it matter? Because when you ask if the cosmos dreams, you begin to live more fully awake. You look up at the stars not just as burning spheres, but as questions. You speak more gently. You listen more deeply. You begin to sense that everything, every moment, every atom has weight, has meaning, not because someone said so, but because you feel it. And that feeling is the dream stirring within you. Sleep is coming. Let it carry you into that deeper stillness, into the mystery, into the wonder. The cosmos may be waiting for you there. Before you drift off into dreams of your own, hold on to this. The universe is not something you stand apart from. You're not merely in it. You are of it. Every atom in your body was forged in a star. Every breath you take ripples through time and space. You're the cosmos remembering itself, however briefly, and whether or not it dreams. Tonight you do, and that perhaps is its greatest miracle. Thank you for spending this time with us beneath the stars. If you found peace in tonight's journey, or stirred a little curiosity along the way, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the Sleepy Cosmos. It helps others find their way here too. Until next time, may your dreams drift far, and may the cosmos whisper softly in your sleep.